We'll call this meeting to order, everybody. Welcome to the June 21st, 2022 Finance Committee meeting, Summer Solstice Edition. I'd like to ask everybody to please mute your devices or put on vibrate. To members of the public, if you are here presently and would like to make a comment under public comment section, please come up to the table. If you're on Zoom, please utilize the raise hand function. I would like to remind everybody to please clearly identify yourself for staff reports and public comment. And then I'd also like to make a reminder that no additional business will be discussed following completion of the agenda. We'll just be discussing items on the agenda. With that, I will ask the clerk to, I have Richard Johnson with me here in the meeting room. Dr. Aldridge is online.
Ken will be here in a few minutes.
Mr. Escobar will be a little bit late, but we'll be here. And with that, I'll ask Jen, please read the first item. Thank you.
Number 6A, Bar and Grill Liquor License Application filed with the City Clerk's Office for SAS Compliance LLC, doing business as Paris West Restaurant and Bar, 1719 Central Avenue, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Staff report.
Mr. Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk. The application before you is a request for a new bar and grill license, which has been reviewed by the applicable city departments in the Wyoming Liquor Division and deemed eligible. It's my understanding that the applicant business plan includes operation of a restaurant and bar, and I believe there is a representative here if you do have any questions.
Great, thank you. Is there any comment from members of the public concerning this item? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Comments? I'll just wish Corey and Mr. Ward good luck. I've seen the exterior as to the project, and it looks fantastic, and we're certainly excited to see a new restaurant downtown. So if there are no comments from the committee, all those in favor of the application, please signify by saying aye.
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 If no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 25, resolution approving the budget of the Cheyenne Downtown Development Authority for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th of 2023.
Staff report. Dominic?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if there needs to be a staff report, other than it was on.
Glad you showed up.
I appreciate it. I was double booked last week. I was in the city of Burns for the last meeting, but it was my understanding there was a hold off to wait till our board voted on it, and our board did vote on the budget. So answer any questions if there are.
Great. Stand by, Dominic.
Okay.
Any comments or questions from members of the public? Mr. Ridgway.
Jim Ridgway, 3615 Moore Avenue. The only question I had is when I looked at it online, I saw that there was, and this deals with like the city amount of money putting in, there was $20,000 for travel and $20,000 for education. I want to know where you would be traveling to and how's that going to benefit the city by spending $40,000 on that.
So, Mr. Chairman, in the previous budget for last year, the reason there was an increase is there were no professional development dollars. So these are for travel dollars to conferences related to the Downtown Development Authority to bring back specifically ideas that improve the downtown. So those are things that would be for professional development for the staff and travel that would be related to that. So the reason we had zeroed it out at the last budget and put funding dollars in this go around was specifically because we were analyzing what that would be as a benefit, but that's what it is.
And and for clarification, and just for the record, for folks on Zoom, Mr. Escobar is now present. And just for clarification, Mr. Bravo, just because you budgeted that amount doesn't mean that amount will be spent, correct?
Oh, no, Mr. Chairman, that was just based on expenses from last year to what this year, giving our best estimate going forward.
Great, thank you. Any other
I do.
questions?
Do you have any ideas where you'd be traveling to at this time, or it's just in the budget? You haven't selected any sites or agendas or anything?
Mr. Chairman, we haven't selected anything.
If that's all, it just seemed excess to me of that amount, and
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions from members of the public?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Laybourne?
due to my personal circumstances, things have been kind of crazy for me, and so I haven't been quite as involved in the DDA and the proposed budget as I would have liked to have been. But I can see that we now have a very healthy budget here that I think goes along well with a lot of good things that are happening in the downtown that we work on, although we've got a lot of catch-up to do, and certainly I felt like our recent efforts with the Wyoming Department of Transportation along Warren Avenue were definitely steps in the right direction that hadn't been taken in the past, where we had that coordination. And I really think that's what we're talking about here, is the coordination of all the things that go on downtown, improvements that the DDA wants to make. I would say that look forward to the meeting we're going to have shortly here, the work session. Going to go over some of the things that we need to talk about and figure out, because we're certainly in a amazingly unique and wonderful situation where we are very adequately funded. And with the sales tax funding that we have, as well as this budget, I think we can do a lot of good. But I do want to note some of my concerns. Having been on that board for the past year, unfortunately, I was also the council representative to the Visit Cheyenne prior to EDA joint effort. That worked real well with the 2-month period of time, because we were dealing with an established program that had well-established series of actions that it took. Still following through on today, but since that time, I've had to miss a number of those board meetings. Once every 2 months really is, I'm not sure how we want to take a look at that, but I know I'm not the only board member who sees the need for us to take a look at how we're operating, how the year went, and what we can look forward to in the future. Because as I'm sure my colleagues here know, we've got some development issues that are pretty serious that throughout the downtown parking, all of our development actions on the west side. So there's a lot going on, and I speak in favor of adopting this budget with the knowledge that it is a work in progress, and that we are going to be looking at some changes, as were just discussed a moment ago, in staff development, for instance. You don't do staff development. I think you fortunately do a lot of what we do here in the city of Cheyenne, which is reinvent the wheel. It's important that we have that pick up those ideas, and certainly then bring them home and apply them. I think that's the real test. So I recognize that I certainly intend to be more directly involved than I have in the past as council rep to this board. I look forward to some of the good things we've begun. It is daunting to understand all the pieces have to go into a contemporary quality downtown. It's a lot there that isn't just the development agency, but the departments and their coordination. So speak in favor of adopting this budget, and forward to sure that next year we're going to follow up, keep that trajectory going, because the private side is doing it. We need to keep up on the public side, and, quite confident we can do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laybourne, and welcome back. Any other comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
Yes, just one.
Mr. Johnson?
Dominic, just because you said you had your meeting, I'm going to assume that you guys actually approved your budget?
Sherman, yes, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yes, and, Mr. Seagrave also sent out an email this morning indicating he was present at the last board meeting and he communicated to us that they did approve the budget. Any other comments from the committee?
Dr. Aldridge has her hand up.
Dr. Aldridge?
Chairman White, through you, I just wanted to say thank you to Dominic for their patience. I think that we really need to readdress and look at the system and making sure that their board always has a chance to review their budget and approve it before it comes to us. And so I know that that's something that our city attorney is keen and aware of, but I think that will just help to streamline the process, and appreciate the patience and the persistence of my colleagues on the council for postponing it until after the DDA and their group had a chance to look at it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the budget for the DDA, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Thanks, Dominic, and thanks to Haley, too. Next item, please.
Number 30, resolution authorizing the City of Cheyenne Board of Public Utilities to discharge uncollectible debts in the amount of $28,499.04 pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 16-4-502.
Staff report.
Chair Brad Bowen, Cheyenne Board of Public Utilities Administration Manager. Before you is a request to discharge our annual uncollectible debt. This debt is after we have gone through our internal collection process and our external collection process. Included in the internal collection process is a submission of a final bill to the prior resident, a collection letter 3 weeks following that, another collection letter 10 days after that, and then another collection letter following that. Then it goes on to the collection company within 120 days. We'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public? Mr. Ridgway.
Jim Ridgway, 3615 Moore Avenue. I saw when I looked online that one of the people that owed money to the city was the government. I believe it was a veterans hospital.
So,
Mr.
Mr. Chair, through you, that is actually a foreclosure that the Veterans Affairs Department would have taken over as part of a VA mortgage.
Okay. They're not responsible for it, it's the person at the home then?
Yep.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldridge?
Chairman White, through you, I just wanted to thank Mr. Brooks from VOPU. He and I had a conversation about these past due debts last week and this write-off. As always, I'm a little discouraged by the number of people that are not able to, pay their total bills. I did want to point out that this is an area that WHAM is working on their legislative. There was a resolution that would allow the legislature to put a lien against property, so for past utilities. So we'll continue to work with WHAM to make sure that happens.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Aldridge, and it sounds pretty lively where you are. Any other comments from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, next item, please.
Number 31, resolution supporting the continuation of the optional 1% sales tax for calendar years 2023 through 2026, and pledging that all revenues derived from this tax will be used for projects described in this resolution.
Staff report.
Vicki Nemechek, Public Works. I did send an email out to everyone with the draft, fifth penny resolution. That resolution is required, by ordinance number 3.08.010, which says that the resolution of expenditure intent required. The governing body must adopt a resolution of expenditure intent specifying the uses for which the governing body will expend 1% optional sales tax revenue made available to it by the electorate pursuant to the Wyoming statute. No less than 60 days before a vote on the 1% optional sales tax proposition at a general election. This is the resolution that allows us to put this 1% sales tax on the election ballot in November. It is what's commonly known as the fifth penny sales tax. It is for a set amount of time, which is 4 years. The fifth penny sales tax is for a set amount of time. The sixth penny sales tax are for specific projects. So collection goes as long as it takes to collect that amount. In this case, we have to determine or estimate how much money we will collect over the 4-year period. So the last tax, we estimated $42,500,000, and we have collected more than that. So we are going to increase that collection estimate to $50 million this time around. You'll see the changes that makes in the percentages and the amounts of money that each of the entities get. But overall, the estimate of $50 million increases the road tax portion to $40 million over the 4-year period, which would be $10 million a year. That gets us closer to what we need each year in order to keep the roads at the current place where they are today. So that's a good thing that we'll have more money. And the overages will also 80% of the last tax. Those overages will also go towards bringing those roads up to a better the pavement condition index. We would hope that we would be able to raise those numbers. The other entities are 20%. That would be the remaining $10 million that we're estimating. Those entities include fire, police, community recreation and events, city county health, compliance for animal control, the airport board for leases of property, human services agencies, the Joint Powers Economic Development Board, and then there is a small amount set aside for city entities that don't receive fifth penny tax, and that goes towards equipment or things that those entities need that they don't have budget for. For example, we've helped facilities buy vehicles, we've helped fleet maintenance buy vehicles, those kinds of things that are mostly big ticket items. Mr. Escabel was kind enough to sit in on our meetings that we had with the entities that do receive funds. We did come to a consensus on this proposed resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but we recommend.
Thanks, Vicki, and thank you for clarifying what percentages go where. I know that's education is always important when we're dealing with fifth penny. Stand by, please. Comments or questions from members of the public? Mr. Ridgway.
Jim Ridgway, 3615 Moore Avenue. I do have a couple questions. I'm not access to all the same info you have. I did see one item on there that they listed a project on the 5th Street, replacing the 5th Street Bridge.
Vicki?
Vicki Nemechek, Public Works. That was on the last tax, the resolution number 5933. It was a priority project to replace and widen the 5th Street over Crow Creek Bridge. It was needed to accommodate increased traffic volumes and improve pedestrian safety and connectivity.
So not on this one?
Correct. It was on the last tax, and it is in design right now.
And again, I didn't see all the projects. Are any of the projects that you listed, are they able to be covered by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act? Basically, what the Congress passed allowed cities and towns to allocate for for projects, rather than going to the taxpayers.
I'm looking at our city attorney and Stephanie, do you wanna weigh in? I don't believe so, but
Stephanie Boster, Cheyenne City Attorney, Chairman, through you to Mr. Ridgway. As far as I know, none of these projects would qualify for that. We've not seen that funding.
I know, but if, it's coming down through the state though, isn't it? It goes from the national to the state and to the city level. At some point, you could get it or check into it. That's what I'm just trying to find out if, why use our taxpayers' dollars when we could use federal taxpayer dollars?
Oh, Mr. Cobb. Cobb, do you have a explanation for Mr. Ridgway?
Chairman, through you to Mr. Ridgway. What I will say to Mr. Ridgway is yes, we are looking at those funding options. In fact, one of the projects that are listed as our priority, which is the Converse one, especially, we're looking at some of the bridge money there, but we haven't secured that funding as of yet.
Okay, and in that question is the fifth penny goes forward, it gets approved, that money, if you can use federal dollars, great, but now that's just gonna divert money into the overage fund, correct? If it's not used.
Vicki Nemechek,
Correct.
Public Works. Overage only exists after we've collected $50 million.
50 million, okay.
So anything that goes over the 50 million, that would go into an overage.
Is there a restriction where you can't say, instead of having it for 4 years, you can just do the amount? So we're gonna keep this tax until we get your $50 million.
Vicki Nemechek, Public Works, no,
Why is that?
state statute.
State statute?
Yep.
Okay. All right, that was a question I had because it seems that, as you all know, we have up to probably close to $30 million in overage fund from the last one that's
Yep.
gonna be coming in. And
Yep.
now that money's allocated and spent, it's up to city council, mayor.
Go ahead.
Vicki Nemechek, Public Works. Overage is all designated
Correct.
according
Okay, so
to the
80% street,
8% goes to
Right.
street.
Okay.
Roads, the remainder, it's all outlined in the resolution, and overage also is outlined in the new resolution, how the overage is
Okay.
to be designated and spent.
and you anticipate that with that $30 million that could come in, it may be less, it may be more, you're gonna need an additional $50 million to keep things going.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The $50 million is an estimate of what we would collect over the 4-year period. It's a number that we have to have some kind of a number so that we can budget that money. So.
And you have to put that specific number on the ballot.
We have to put the number in the
That's required.
resolution. You have to put the number in the resolution.
Right.
For budgeting purpose, we have to have a number, and it's a 4-year tax. So we don't get to decide how long we get to collect it, we don't
Right.
get to decide, the only thing we're doing is estimating how much we will collect, and then designating how we will use it.
The other question is, in that ballot as it goes forward, there's no way to, I guess, designate that says any overage money can be directed to pay off city debt, improve city parks. It has to go specifically to those items, 80% here, the 20% there.
The overage is, again, through you, Chair.
Go ahead.
The overage is specific in how it is designated
Okay.
in the resolution. As in this 30 million, the way that that overage is gonna be used, I can read it to you if you
Oh,
want.
I've
Okay.
read it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify is the only thing is a voter is to approve the fifth penny tax. I don't have any say in where overage goes.
You have say in, right now, if you want it to be done differently, you tell these people, and they are the ones who would designate how this resolution reads. So that's your say. Your say is to your elected officials.
So that's a question I'm gonna bring up to you, in that any overage from the fifth penny tax, that voters be allowed to have that to retire some city debt, could be parking garage debt. Rather than waiting for, I guess these overages in the fifth penny to keep building up and up, why doesn't the city wanna retire debt? Maybe it could be six penny debt. The city has a lot of debt that it could retire, and if that's specific in that,
Right.
in that, item, you're giving the voters more of a chance to say where their money goes.
By statute, this is a general purpose tax. I don't know how what the general purpose would, if debt, reduction is in there, I don't know that for sure, but this statute says that this tax, this four-year tax, that we're allowed to collect, the fifth penny, is for general purposes.
Don't have a lot of flexibility with fifth penny. We do have some flexibility with six penny. But, fifth penny is pretty much set in stone on what it can be spent for and what it can't.
Let me ask kind of a general question. So if you go up on, I don't know how many people drive past Pershing Boulevard, up by the cemetery, if you look at that fence, that cast iron fence that surrounds both sides of the cemetery, it's rusted, some sections are falling apart. Is that an item that can be included, or how does that get fixed?
Well, Mr. Ridgway, your questions are certainly appreciated, but the item that we're talking about is whether or not we're going to approve the resolution to support the fifth penny, which we have to do by law in order to put the fifth penny on the ballot.
To include in any type of overage spending.
For fifth penny, yes, sir.
Okay.
Actually, he may be right. If I could qualify under expense for that one.
Well, we can have that conversation another time.
Under CRE.
Any other question, or any other comments or questions from members of the public?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Laybourne?
thank you. This is a very important matter, and
It is.
obviously, again, we're in an enviable situation where we can catch up on a lot of the backlog that we have. Certainly, I feel like it is an unusual aspect of city government that so rarely we have someone come in at this point and actually make these recommendations, but certainly what we're here for, and that's what we're trying to do. But I have a couple of comments I wanted to make here about some of the activities that we are planning. I'm glad to see that we are including the whereas for federal rules dictate stormwater drainage systems be maintained, developed, and improved. I believe that's new, isn't it, Ms. Nemechek?
Actually, that is, are we talking about, the $4 million on number 5?
The 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth whereas clause.
Oh, the whereas, okay, sorry, my bad. Actually, that's the same as in the last. Yep, that's the same as it was in the last resolution.
Well, and so, obviously, with our efforts that are ongoing here to create a stormwater utility, we know very well that what we're gonna have here is some real major and long-term maintenance costs. So I just wanted to make sure that, talked about the things that we do here with it and that we haven't been able to do. We haven't been able to have a comprehensive drainage program, and so we need to. I also, I'm concerned about, another matter here that, is,
If I can say one thing about the drainage, if I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I did want to mention that if you look at the, number 5 on the table under street and road maintenance and construction, page 205, when you go down to number 5, the amount in the last tax for the 4-year period was $2.2 million. we've increased that to, if you'll see on page 205, the very last item, we've increased that to 4 million. And, we knew, the engineering department and I discussed increasing that because we felt that, that was a significant need in the city, so we did increase that from 2.2 million to 4 million, so that will increase, what would have been $550,000 a year in drainage. Now it will be $1 million each year in drainage.
And so, Mr. Chairman, obviously, within this resolution and within our budgeting process can be, kind of involves a tremendous amount of money, but it also involves everything throughout the city. So that it might not be obvious reading this, but you can backtrack and find out where we came to these conclusions and where these funds went. I do want to mention priority number 6. Priority 1 under number 6 is reconstruct Commerce Avenue, pedestrian Greenway Bridge to Mason Way. This is a case, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, where we might not be really aware of exactly what we're doing. I believe that there are many connections, greenway elements that need to be dealt with, but I think we have to deal with our first and primary responsibilities, and that is not at Bell Range, that is between Warren Air Force Base, Martin Luther King Park, which is part of the original loop concept that was passed 30 years ago. So I'm concerned about that, as well as priority number 2, realigning Fiscal Drive at 19th Street. That's been on the list since I can remember. It's been a long time, but that is right there in that same vicinity. And so if you're talking about including greenway projects in road work, it's very important that there be a prioritization. This is something that I believe that fits in, not perhaps clearly as it does to some other people, but, or to me, it seems more clear to me than it does to other people. This is Ward 1, this is our west side. These are the projects that we're working on. And so all these pieces have to come together, and we don't want to have any more surprises here in West Cheyenne. So I just did want to mention that. It is something I will be pursuing. It's something that partial Greenway Committee, partial Engineering Department, certainly it should be a priority in Ward 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laybourne. Any other comments from the members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
Michelle have her hand raised.
She has her mic off.
Okay. So,
I mean, she has her mic on to talk, so. Dr. Aldridge, would you like to have, do you have a question?
You have one? Yeah. Okay.
No, I was just waiting to vote.
Okay,
okay.
Go ahead, Richard.
So on the Human Service Agencies, do you know when the Human Service Advisory Council meets next? Because I know the United Way did a 38% cut to the existing agencies that didn't make the list on the fifth penny list that we had discussed about maybe 8 months ago. And so I was wondering if they were going to reanalyze. I know we approved, I think it was like for 3 years, but because of their cuts that they had, I believe it took place in November, December, their fundraising capabilities haven't met what their goals were to offset the cost of that, in this case, 2%. So do you know when they meet next to see when, if they're gonna reevaluate that due to those? That was a pretty big cut that they took for 38% across the board.
Huge cut, yes.
Mr. Chair, through you, I don't have that, but I can find out when that is. If they've scheduled it, I don't believe they have yet scheduled it, but they should meet at the very latest in the fall.
Okay.
Year. They will have at the end of this next fiscal year, and it's an option we have they will have overage money available to them at the end of the four-year tax. They do get their portion overage. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they still have some overage remaining from previous tax. Something around the $90,000.
Yeah, I thought that they were restricted by only the entities that were on the list that we had created. They couldn't really go outside their parameters even on overages.
That's true.
because of
The
that.
Human Service Advisory Council would still have to approve any money
Right.
that, how it was distributed, but that is another place where money will be available in the.
Any other comments or questions from the committee?
Sure.
Mr. Escobar?
Now, during the meetings, did say that there should be a contingency plan that the city has, because we shouldn't really take granted that a tax is gonna always pass. That, the future of how we would finance these things should it not pass.
Right.
Having more flexibility by doing fifth pity administratively, give us that flexibility to address things that Mr. Ridgway brought up and Councilman Laybourne brought up. When we have our next goal setting session, it's should be in the discussion. It's have a backup plan.
Yes. And I read over the weekend that a couple of counties in our state have their commissioners have voted to make their fifth penny permanent. So, that's always something as well. But, any other comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. Next item, please.
Number 35, resolution authorizing the City of Cheyenne Community Recreation and Events Department to apply for a Cheyenne Community Recreation District Recreation Mill Grant to construct a multi-use storage facility at the Cheyenne Junior League Athletic Complex.
Staff report, please.
Renee Smith, Grants Manager.
Renee, welcome back.
Thanks. Been a long couple of weeks.
Yes.
So before you is a resolution for the application that Community Rec and Events is putting in for a multi-user storage facility for the CGL complex. Currently, both the city and the school districts are renting facilities, temporary ones, at a cost of $120 a month each. And so this will put 4 bays in, and it will be a permanent use, shared use for both the school district and the city. I am here for any questions.
Stand by, please. Comments or questions from the members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Chair, I move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions by members of the committee?
Yes, sir, when you're ready.
Mr. Johnson?
And just to follow up, as far as like your brownfield assessment programs, with super funds and brownfields, does that typically fluctuate any property values when we look at these types of things? Because I know when you go online and look at super funds and brownfields, a lot of people, even though I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is the.
Yeah, I think that's the next one.
Sorry, you just
Yeah.
handed me this one.
Oh, I
Sorry, was like
apologize.
reading
So
it.
with that being said, an answer to that next
Okay.
one.
Sorry. Sorry, Mr.
Did you see the big
I
eyeball?
saw her eyes were big and I looked and I was like, oh, it's the next one.
Yeah, this is for the athletic.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was like, why are we talking brownfields with an athletic complex?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't
never
know.
mind, go ahead with your speech.
Comments or other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, next item.
Number 36,
Okay, now, Richard.
resolution authorizing the City of Cheyenne Planning and Development Department to accept a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency community-wide brownfield assessment grant to continue development efforts in the West Edge District.
Staff report. Sorry, Renee,
No.
staff report, please.
You're fine. Renee Smith, Grants Manager. So, in the fall, we submitted a grant, with AIRS for this assessment for, a brownfield, $500,000. What the funds go towards is hiring basically a project manager, and we're going to, they've selected 4 areas in West Edge to continue the expansion that was done several years ago, with the intention that once this assessment's done, then we can apply for actual implementation grants. They did leave some wiggle room for, besides the 4 that were identified, if anything else came up, we could perhaps select other projects. But it's a $500,000 grant that was awarded. We haven't received the award documents for signatures yet, but we've been notified that we were selected for this assessment.
Good news.
It is very good news. I think it will help move West Edge, continue that progress that we've made. And I'm here to answer any questions. I have a couple phone a friends too, so Mr. Johnson.
Stand by, Renee. Comments or questions from members of the public?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Laybourne.
Well, this is one of the most fascinating and complex matters that we take under consideration here. Knowing that the west side of our city here was a industrial part of town long ago when people weren't as sensible as they are now, made a lot of big messes, and we have to clean them up. And actually, Mr. Johnson, I was involved in the Superfund cleanup site on Warren Air Force Base for more than a decade. So, yes, these things are complex, expensive, difficult. Nevertheless, we've been very successful with what we've been able to get thus far. And this is a really key piece of the corridor and the West Edge. And it really benefits us to have that experienced, factual knowledge here, because it gets way beyond us when you start talking those parts per billion and the various factors here. But I want to note that we've had a lot of trouble over on the corridor. I think that this shows that we've consistently tried to keep going, and that we're ready to utilize that. I think that there's some explanation in order here, probably not at this meeting, but over time, as to where our previous brownfield money went, whether it was a beneficial use or not. Because we've had trouble putting these projects together and getting them taken care of in the past. I think we've learned from that. I would point out to the members of the council that I think this is really an important reason why we need to adopt a new steering committee proposal that's coming before us shortly here, so that we have someone for the project manager to plug into. So that, and I think that specifically we need to be looking at these pieces as pieces that are going to need a project manager, as we had in the past, similar projects. So this is something that I'm quite confident will be very worthwhile and used, but again, it's that coordination, and we suffered with the changes in administration, with different fiscal and medical problems. I mean, this is just a tough time. So providing this experienced matter of identifying and funding these problems is very important, and I think that it can keep us moving on down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laybourne. Any other comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from members of the committee?
Yes, ma'am. Roll over. Do you have anything else?
I don't have anything to add to your question, and I don't know if from the last West Edge, if they've got the details on property values changing or not.
Because it looked like just the way that it looks on the maps, not necessarily this one, but that pretty much our entire city, with the refineries and everything else in it, that our city's pretty much an entire Superfund district, the way it looks like on the map when you see the parameters.
Yeah. What is interesting about West Edge and Civic Commons, just as a side note, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
When I was doing the annual reports for these, and the private investment totaled with, when they first purchased, or first, starting with Civic Commons and working out, it's millions of dollars in value added. So we just see this as an extension of that next step. It's pretty impressive what's been done down here. So we're hoping this will.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, next item, please, and Mr. Johnson has to leave us.
Number 37, resolution authorizing the submission of an application by the City of Cheyenne for federal funding through the Transportation Alternatives Program administered by the Wyoming Department of Transportation for the purpose of design and right-of-way acquisition for a multi-use path for pedestrians, bicycles from the Sun Valley Open Space into East Cheyenne Community Park.
Staff report? Hi, Jeannie.
Hi. Chair, through you, the item for
Could you identify yourself for folks?
Jeannie Vetter, Parks and Greenway Planner.
Thank you.
The item for consideration is an authorization from council to submit a TAP grant application for engineering design and right-of-way acquisition for the Sun Valley Greenway connector. This connector will be approximately 1.7 miles and will run from the existing Greenway trailhead located south of the Sun Valley subdivision and east of North College Drive, then east to the East Cheyenne Community Park. This connector has been discussed and listed as a priority in several planning documents since 2000, and with the purchase of the East Park property, the Greenway Advisory Committee has agreed that it is a top priority, and if the grant is approved, the city would pay $59,500, that's 9.51% of the total project, with 6-penny funding, and the TAP grant would pay $565,600, that's 90.49% of the project. Submission of the grant to include a resolution by the governing body is due July 15th. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jeannie. Stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public? Laybourne?
Mr. Chairman, I just, got to speak to this. This has been so long coming.
I had a
And
feeling.
it's so important, and it is such a tough one, but it's going to, do incredible things for East Cheyenne and our city, connecting to that, overall system. It, really is, says a lot about Cheyenne, and that's what I want to be emphasizing here today is follow through is when we really get the results, and this is the follow through of many years, and I think people are going to be really surprised and pleased when this actually comes into construction, because it was just had that open space and that dammed off there, and this really offers a big opportunity, so wonderful thing.
It certainly is. Other comments or questions from members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Chair, move to adopt.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee? Just a quick comment, Mr. Laybourne, to your point, I volunteered at our 26th annual Brewfest over the weekend, and I got paired up helping a gentleman from Pinedale, who's their head brewer in Pinedale, and he spent a couple of days here, brought his bike, and got on our greenway and told me that he had never seen such a cool thing in any of the cities that he's traveled to. So that's a credit to our staff. It's a credit to council who have really given a lot of support to Greenway projects, and most of all, credit to our community who've really always come through for us on the 6-penny to keep the Greenway going and expanding. So just wanted to indicate that. There are no other comments from, Dr. Aldridge, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman White. I just wanted to say that I had the opportunity recently to participate in the bike rodeo that Jeannie did with CRMC. And I think our biking community is a growing community. And I really appreciate all of her efforts, not only to expand the Greenway and that system, but also to encourage and build new users of the Greenway. So I think she and Renee make a great team, and I'm looking forward to hopefully us receiving this grant and being able to extend our Greenway.
Thanks, Dr. Aldridge. And with gas prices, our biking community could probably be growing exponentially. There are no other comments and questions from the committee. All those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, next item, please.
Number 38F, contract between the City of Cheyenne and Blue Cross Blue Shield for third-party administrator services and for group health insurance benefits for city employees.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Finance Committee, Darren Hass, HR. This is a little bit different contract. It's typically, I've always come back for renewal Blue Cross. This is actually a different contract. It's a third-party administrator contract with Blue Cross. They're going to continue a partnership with us to administer our benefits, but they'll be the ones that will be processing all the billing for us. They'll send us bills, we pay the bills. This is part of going self-insured.
Great.
And it's a per member charge. Right now, we have approximately 457 insured at the cost is $56.50 per member. So it'll be roughly $25,000 a month for this charge.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. Stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public? Do I have a motion from the committee?
Chair, move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this contract, please signify by saying aye.
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 If no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 38G, contract between the City of Cheyenne and Granular Insurance Company for stop-loss insurance for city employees.
Mr. Haas?
Good afternoon, Darren Hass, HR. This is to accompany the TPA agreement. With any good business transaction, you have to have insurance, some coverage. So this gives us our stop-loss coverage for any high-dollar claims. So something we have to be self-insured. And it's also a per member charge.
Thank you. Stand by. Comments from the public? Do I have a motion from the committee?
Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, next item, please.
Number 38H, professional services agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Brian Quinn for city prosecutor legal counsel services.
Staff report.
Stephanie Boster, Cheyenne City Attorney. What you have before you is a contract between the city and Brian Quinn. The purpose of this contract is I need a second prosecutor at the municipal court. I currently have one, and he is overwhelmed. So this contract is through the end of the year, and the intention would be for Brian Quinn to take half the load off the current city prosecutor, Thomas Schott, moving forward. Funding for this contract would come from the city attorney's budget. I'm authorized to hire a second assistant city attorney. In addition to my deputy, funding would come from that part of my budget. And I stand for questions.
Stand by, Stephanie. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Chair, I move to approve in the amount not to exceed $46,800.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldridge.
Yes, Chairman White, through you to City Attorney Boster. I'm just curious as to whether this amount was included in the budget that we just passed.
Chairman, through you to Councilman Aldridge, it is included, it's not specifically delineated for a contract position. It's the position that is the Assistant City Attorney position, which would fund this.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee? Welcome, Mr. Quinn.
And before I go, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce my legal intern from the University of Wyoming. He's a rising 2L. His name is Matthew Grodecki, and he's with us for the next 2 months. He'll be doing a lot of legal research on the civil side.
Excellent. Welcome, Mr. Grodecki. And I'm sure Stephanie has more work than you can imagine if you want to stay, do a little side work while you're in your 3rd year. I know you're probably not busy in your 3rd year of law school. I'm being sarcastic.
Never.
But all those in favor of this professional services agreement, please signify by saying aye.
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 No one's opposed. Next item, please.
Number 39D, contract modification number 1 to contract number 7151 between the City of Cheyenne and the Wyoming Business Council to extend the construction services completion deadline and agreement expiration date for the F.E. Warren Enhanced Use Lease project.
Renee, welcome back.
Thank you, Renee Smith, Grants Manager. So in November, we requested an extension on the F.E. Warren EUL grant with the Wyoming Business Council. It was set to complete June 30th of 2022, and we recognized that due to unforeseen circumstances with contracting, we needed to request this extension. We went before SLIB in February, and when I went to go file all the paperwork, I realized I never pushed it through council, so my apologies. So it's here today, but we did receive an extension for the F.E. Warren EUL. Basically what they were asking for, we had 3 items we had to abide by: completion of the property annexation, completion of the final environmental review, and we have completed our piece of that. The piece that was missing was the executed lease between F.E. Warren and the selected developer. So we're currently waiting on F.E. Warren to proceed. So the new the construction service completion date has been extended to December 31st, 2024, with an end of the agreement expiration date of 2027, December 31st. So they have approved this extension. And we are just proceeding, and I see Mr. Cobb is on there, and he may have more updates, but this is to specifically sign this contract extension, requesting permission.
Thanks, Renee. Mr. Cobb, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, Tom Cobb, City Engineer, just to kind of piggyback on what Renee said, the only other item that I might add is that you'll see in the coming weeks, a contract to actually map the floodplain within that area to help us move this project forward. That we don't have BFEs in the area, so it should help this project, and that's all I have to add.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. I know we're anxiously awaiting that to see the progress of this project. Any comments from the members of the public?
Chairman,
Mr. Laybourne.
this is a very interesting element of what we do because it's so mysterious as to what the Air Force intends, and having that previous contractor found to be unacceptable is unusual, but so when might we expect Air Force to give us that authority to proceed?
Mr. Chairman?
Cobb, I don't know.
Mr. Cobb, any ideas?
I have summer of 2022.
The mayor.
Oh, Mr. Mayor.
It was.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the committee, Balfour Beatty was the contractor that was originally selected by the Air Force for this project, and they could not come to an agreement. So they were, I guess, technically fired from the project, and we've been meeting with the Air Force over the last about a year and a half now, try to get them to open it up to a new contractor. They are going to open it up for an RFQ here in the next couple of weeks. They're planning on an industry day for all of the the vendors in August. And we hope that we'll have by February a contract with a new developer that will build this housing on the EUL property. And so they have, we begged, borrowed, did whatever we could to get them to bring this project back. They've agreed to do it. And we're very hopeful that a local developer will take this project on. And, you know, here in the next couple of months, we'll figure out who that's going to be and get this housing built.
Mr. Laybourne?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, my point that I made earlier about the connection between Martin Luther King Park and the base is really critical when we're talking about this housing that actually will be outside the base itself, and having that access to the Missile Drive gate, and as well as that ability to come into town down the creek, past the 19th Street reconstructed bridge. And my point is there's a lot going on here, and I feel like we were making progress with some of the issues there along the creek and with the EUL, but then it all went blank, and so it's time to start that up again. And I want to really emphasize, I think I have done, that this can't be a project where it falls by the wayside. This is a critical connection of our long plan, and very important connection to Warren Air Force Base, certainly to town itself. But I can tell you that it is not on the priority list it should be. It's Greenway connection there is kind of an ancillary issue, but if we look at it and think about it, we'll realize it certainly isn't. It is a central issue, how the city grows and how we work with our Warren Air Force Base here. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Hearing to approve.
I would second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the contract modification, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, next item, please.
Number 40A, consideration of bid number E-28-22 for multiple contracts between the City of Cheyenne and Solid Rock 119 Incorporated, doing business as Top Flight Maintenance Incorporated, for janitorial services for multiple City of Cheyenne facilities.
TJ.
Good afternoon, Chairman, committee members. TJ Bartlebort, Purchasing Manager. Before you this afternoon is a consideration of bid for bid E-2822. This bid was solicited for janitorial services for the Cheyenne Public Safety Center, Cheyenne Municipal Building, Cheyenne Municipal Court, Youth Alternatives, and Special Friends Building. 3 bidders responded to this bid. Solid Rock 119 Inc., doing business as Top Flight Maintenance, was the lowest responsive bidder for each of the facilities shown on the bid. 4 separate professional services agreements will be executed in order to allow for each building manager to monitor the performance of the services provided at each individual facility. The funding for the cleaning services will be paid for from the general fund, with the exception of the Special Friends Building for Youth Alternatives, which will be paid for from the Youth Alternatives Fund. The total cost of the services for 1 year for all the facilities is $112,229. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Stand by, TJ. Comments or questions from the public?
Chairman.
Mr. Laybourne.
So TJ, is this professional services agreement with Top Flight include the landscaping at the Public Safety Center?
Chairman, through you to Councilman Laybourne, I don't believe that it does. I believe it's just for interior janitorial services.
And do we know who does the exterior at that site?
Chairman, through you, I believe that Top Flight, so confirming, Top Flight is currently providing interior cleaning services at the Public Safety Center. I think that their facility manager, Mark Manari, does hire Top Flight to occasionally do small exterior shrub removals or sprinkler turn-ons, things of that nature. But beyond that, I'm not positive.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it looks great. It really is part of, downtown that we want to see, where we have, real attention paid to landscape maintenance. I think we could do better at this building here, although I do understand that this is not under this maintenance agreement. It's about how we look, our curb appeal to citizens. So I certainly compliment Mr. Minari on his diligence at that particular site, but I think we could do better elsewhere as well.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Chair, I move to approve the amount not to exceed $112,229.
Second.
Oh, it's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you, I just had a question for TJ. Is this the same contractor that we have had, or is this a new contractor?
Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldrich, we've had the previous contractor, so there's kind of a loaded question. So at the municipal building, Little Joe has been cleaning. At the Public Safety Center, Top Flight has been cleaning. At Municipal Court, Easy Clean has been cleaning. And at Youth Alternatives and Special Friends, they've never had contracted janitorial services, so this will be a new service for them. So Public Safety Center will have the same contractor they have always previously had, and it will be new cleaning services essentially, or a new cleaning contractor for the rest of the facilities.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this bid consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, next item, please.
Number 40B, consideration of bid number E-29-22 for 24 4-yard front-end load containers and 24 8-yard front-end load containers for the City of Cheyenne Sanitation Division.
Staff report.
Vicki Nemechek, Public Works. Business is booming at sanitation, and we need some more containers, so we have some 4 and 8 yarders on order. We'd like to order some more 4 and 8 yard containers, and to answer any questions, we recommend approval.
Stand by. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Chair, I move to accept the bid from Waste Equipment Manufacturing Company LLC, Statesville, North Carolina, in the amount not to exceed $1,200.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
Chair,
Mr. Escabel.
North Carolina is the closest place to go.
The lowest bid. How it works here.
And only 2 received bids, so that was interesting. Other comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this bid consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, next item, please.
Number 40C, consideration of bid number S-14-22 for a contract between the City of Cheyenne and Ryman Corp. for the ADA ramp improvements for Everett Boulevard project.
Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. Good afternoon, Chairman White and members of the Finance Committee. Before you, in your consideration, is a bid for the replacement of ADA ramp improvements for Everett Boulevard project. 4 bids are received. Those bids were reviewed by myself and Sam Berta in my office, and we recommend approval. The total cost is $82,680. The unique portion of this particular item is you'll see an agreement that should follow here in the next 2 weeks. I have an MOU between between the City of Cheyenne, AVIPC, and Ryman Corp. Those agreed terms are the accepted competitive bid price, including all items pertaining to the removal and replacement of the ramps, shall be equally shared between 1/3 each between the City of Cheyenne, Ryman Corp, and AVIPC. The second item is on this, that AVIPC shall be required to provide the construction bid document package and will be allowed to apply the cost of approved professional services toward 1/3 share of the project listed above. This is in pertaining to, in particular, certain controversies with respect with the construction management, the oversight, and the installation of these ramps made it so that we needed to share the cost. And with that, I'll answer any questions I can.
Stand by, Mr. Cobb. Comments from the public.
Chairman.
Mr. Laybourne.
Mr. Cobb, how did this come to be that we're doing it in this manner after the construction is completed?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Councilman Laybourne. Mr. Laybourne, this in particular, this was an issue that I inherited before my time. This is a carryover from my predecessor. It was the cost that we asked Ryman to put a cost in for this at the time that I came in. That cost far exceeded where we are at today. And I felt like we needed to go to a competitive bid process in order to make it fair for the taxpayer.
Laybourne.
Well, that's certainly an unusual way to make it fair for the taxpayers. I think the best and fairest way for the taxpayers is to do the job right the first time. To make sure that it's complete regardless of who might be sitting in that office at one particular time or not.
Chairman White.
Cobb.
Through you to Councilman Laybourne. Mr. Laybourne, as the price that was furnished to me at the time exceeded the amount you see in front of you, so it would have cost the taxpayer quite a bit more. And as indicated, this is a three-way problem. This was done based on not ours, one of the staff within this office, he managed the project, also an inspector that was on site, and the contractor themselves. All three parties, sir, were at fault.
Well, just to be clear on that, Mr. Cobb, I appreciate your efforts to hold them accountable. That is something that didn't always happen in your office. And I know you're still digging out from the past incredible mismanagement of your office. But I do want to make the point that we can't keep doing this. And this happens on a lot of these projects. Capitol Avenue. The repairs that need to be done to it. There are repairs we're doing right now out on the Christensen overpass. These are complex projects, I acknowledge that, but I think we can do a lot better, and I appreciate your efforts to do that. But there has to be some accountability here somewhere, and I think that we're getting some of it here, but there's more oversight is needed. And so, Mr. Cobb, has your assistant, you received any assistance in your office lately? Have you brought anyone online? Hired anyone?
Mr. White, I'm certainly happy to address this. I've got an interview on Thursday with a candidate that I'm hoping to fulfill that one of my positions. I also have two more that are going to be available, and I'm hoping that all this works out and I get quite a bit of help here very soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion on this bid consideration, please?
Chair, I move to approve in the amount not to exceed $82,680.
I second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldrich.
Dr. White, through you. I would just like to say that I really appreciate the responsiveness of our city engineer, Mr. Cobb, and Doug Klon in his office. And I think that they are unfortunately the inherited not only some problem areas in our community, but have also been asked continually, that office, to do more with less as far as resources, human resources, as well as financial resources. And so I just want to acknowledge that, you know, yes, it's important that we hold people accountable, and yes, it's important that we make sure that we do the best by the taxpayer. But I also want to extend a measure of grace to that office and that staff, because I think under the circumstances, that they're making the best of a really bad situation and doing the best that they can. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that Mr. Cobb is successful on Thursday afternoon and we can get some positions filled in his office.
Thanks, Dr. Aldridge. Comments, other comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this bid consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. Next item, please.
Number 39D, consideration of bid number S-16-22 for a contract between the City of Cheyenne and JTL Group Incorporated doing business as Knife River for the Nationwide Overlay Phase 1 project.
Staff report.
Chairman White, Tom Cobb, City Engineer, before you is for your consideration is a solicited bid for the Nationwide Overlay Phase 1 project. 2 bids were received, one from Simon Contractors and one from Knife River. The low responsive bidder was the Knife River Group, and the total cost of $1,688,725.35. Mr. Klon and I have reviewed those bids, and we recommend approval. And that the project includes milling areas adjacent to the concrete at Nationway and Ridge, and also a leveling course and an overlay. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Stand by, sir. Comments from the public.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Laybourne.
how much was this?
The total bid, and this was the lowest bid, is $1,688,725.35.
Well, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee and members of the public, I think we need to remember why we're redoing this. And why we had an utter failure of that contract just at the council meeting and pointed out by the contractor. Knew it wasn't gonna work, it didn't work, and now we're putting another $1.6 million into it. Obviously very necessary, obviously super important, but it's adding up. And my point is, Mr. Chairman, election time should be the time we talk about accountability and who is held accountable for these mistakes. And ultimately, we on the council have to share in that responsibility because we passed that, approved it. So there's a lot of questions here about these products, what we're receiving, how we have to go back and fix them, and why in the world that happened in the first place. So I certainly speak in favor of doing what we should have done in the first place, but there needs to be some, when we're talking about that amount of money that we were just discussing earlier in the finance committee, of the overage money that we've got, of the 6th penny money we've got, the 5th penny money we've got an opportunity to really get after our streets and do them right. But obviously, if this is the past performance of our office, that's not doing them right. So certainly it's a matter of discussion, I hope, and we see some accountability here as to who's responsible and what we're doing differently with different people to get a better result. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laybourne. Other comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion on this big consideration, please?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve in the amount not to exceed $1,688,725.35.
I would second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you, I would just like to agree with my colleague from Ward 1. I am hopeful, and I'm guessing that TJ is still there in the room, and along with Mr. Cobb, our city engineer, I'm hopeful that we are able to put some safeguards in place as we move forward on these contracts and some warranty situations that are actually enforceable, that and that we withhold payment until some of these projects are deemed complete and done correctly. I know that sometimes those things come to light after the fact, But these things, as Mr. Laybourne noted, were approved by our former council and former council members. And yes, we inherited this. We just have to make it right, and we need to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Dr. Aldridge, and I do agree with you. Other comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this bid consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. Next item, please.
Number 39E, consideration of bid number S-17-22 for a contract between the City of Cheyenne and Casper Electric Incorporated for the Story Boulevard and Ridge Road signalization intersection project.
And before we get a staff report, I think it's actually item 40E.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I went to the top.
That's
there.
okay.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Staff report, please.
Good afternoon, West Bay Engineering. Before you is a contract between the City of Cheyenne and Casper Electric for signalization of the Story and Ridge intersection. This also includes ADA upgrades and some slab replacements. We received one bid from Casper Electric in the amount of $479,999.84. And I'm asking for approval of this contract. I'm available for any questions.
Stand by, please. Comments from the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
Chair, I move to approve in the amount not to exceed $479,999.84.
All right, second?
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
Chair,
Mr. Escabel?
we have a four-way stop there right now.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, that was an interim solution. The signal has been warranted for a while. It's been four-way stop for 5 years or more.
When you do those interim studies on the traffic, what are you looking at? You look at accidents, flow?
So the manual uniform traffic control devices has a number of warrants that have to be met in order for an intersection to become a four-way stop or a signalized intersection. One is traffic volumes, peak hour traffic volumes, as well as crash history, things of that nature. I was not involved in the study that happened previous to traffic engineers ago, so.
All right, I won't ask you any other questions.
Other comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this bid consideration, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, next item, please.
Number 40F, consideration to purchase between the City of Cheyenne and Opengov Incorporated for the purchase of a software as a service, SaaS solution, for budgeting, financial management, procurement, citizen services, reporting, transparency, and asset management.
Is there a staff report?
Yes.
Mr. Skinner?
Good afternoon, council members. Michael
Is this
Skinner.
your first staff report?
Yeah, and I think this is my initiation being the last item.
Oh, wow.
I think it's all
Somebody's
fair.
saving you.
Yeah, Michael Skinner, Digital Asset Management, or Manager, I should say, and Acting Public Information Officer. Before you is a contract for consideration with Opengov and its partner Cartograph to implement ERP cloud-based software for the city. Implementation cost for both Opengov and Cartograph for fiscal year 2023 is $489,658. The annual fees for 4 years through fiscal year 2026 is a total of $981,950 for both Opengov and Cartograph. This brings the grand total for the entire project to $1,471,608. Given the scale of this project and the migration of old data, also known as legacy data, some additional costs may incur. I mentioned this specifically for the financial module Opengov provides, which is currently slated to begin in the third quarter of 2023. We won't know what those costs may be if they do occur until we inch closer to that implementation process for the financials module. If that does occur, it would be a contract amendment. This contract in its entirety would be paid for by American Rescue Plan dollars. Opengov software is specifically made for government entities. Their different modules work seamlessly together, which is really a must for our various city departments to also work together as efficiently as possible. The Opengov module consists of the following: financials, budgeting and planning, procurement, reporting and transparency platform, and citizen services. Opengov partners and integrates also with a company called Cartograph, an asset management tool. For the city, Cartograph would be utilized primarily for the various public works divisions and our engineering department. This will help organize and catalog items such as fleet inventory and fleet maintenance work, road conditions and their associated work, and city building inventory records for items such as HVAC equipment down to fire extinguishers. Those are just a few examples to better paint the picture of what Cartograph does. The current systems in place for the city have become outdated and unreliable, or in the case of what Cartograph offers, some of that is currently non-existent. Current systems that are also tied to an on-site server, making it harder for employees to access if working remotely, which past 2 years we've done a lot of remote working. Opengov is cloud-based, meaning it can easily be accessible from anywhere, so no more logging in for VPN access if you're a city employee. From a constituent standpoint, this provides a more thorough digital avenue to apply for items such as licenses and permits, and also pay for those in the process, which is currently difficult, and go through the city's bid process online. Right now, some of that bid process is online, but not fully. The reporting and transparency portal is a great visual tool to see budget trends and data and would be available for anyone to view online. This is beneficial from both staff and constituents, and also for visual learners such as myself. I can't look at Excel spreadsheets for too much without getting lost. So if approved, the Opengov process would begin with implementation of the procurement and citizen services modules, along with implementation of Cartograph. The financials and budget and planning modules would begin late summer of 2023. Just wanted to be a little long-winded and expand on that for context and background, but we do have representatives from Opengov, Cartograph, and the city with us today on Zoom and in person to dive into any of those items more specifically or to answer any questions you may have. We held a work session for Opengov and Cartograph on June 1st, which is available to watch on the city's Facebook and YouTube pages. Thank you.
Great job. I'm going to ask you to stand by. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Chair, I move to approve in the amount not to exceed $1,471,607.64.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you. Mr. Skinner, are you able, I guess one of the questions as I was reading through all of this bid, will this be utilized by every department eventually, or is it just going to be partial adoption?
Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldridge, they will, I should say, Opengov provides different modules for various city departments. We are, in this contract, wishing to have everything that they offer. So I would say, yes, over time, it will touch just about every department we have, not instantaneously though, as we will be bringing different modules on in a certain matter of time. So we'll start with the procurement module and the citizen services module first, and then the financials module will be starting sometime next year in the summer of 2023. So not all of them right away, but over time, it will touch just about every city department we have.
And this follow-up question, Chairman White, this contract covers all of those modules or only the community services and the procurement currently?
This is for all, Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldridge, this is for all of them.
And a follow-up question then is, I was looking to see, after the initial adoption, what are we looking at as an ongoing annual cost? I know that will probably increase each year, but what is the initial ongoing cost if we were to have to pay ongoing costs this year?
Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldridge, from what I have in front of me, it looks like the annual fees for Opengov, if I'm not mistaken, would be $192,000, or $192,314. For Cartograph, it would be, first year, fiscal year 2023 would be $50,840. And I know we have Robin Lockman on, if I perhaps butchered that or pulled up the wrong information.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted, this is Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. So I don't know if Dr. Aldridge realizes this, but we have 4 years of those annual fees built into that $1.4 million figure. So we have 4 years paid for, and then in the 5th year, that's when the city general fund will have to start covering.
Great, thank you.
I have one final or follow-up question. And I can't remember the exact figure, maybe Robin, you can help me, but by implementing this software, which allows all of the city departments to streamline services, what was the expectation in savings? I know that we received that in an email, and I think it might have been even mentioned in the work session, but there was a pretty significant amount of savings that we were expected by going to this service that would hopefully allow it to pay for itself.
Mr. Chairman, Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. I would like either Greg or Monica to maybe address that with exact numbers.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Go
awesome.
ahead.
Hey, thanks everyone for your time today. My name is Greg and I'm with Opengov. So it really depends on the various services that you're looking at. I think from citizen services, for example, the return usually that we see could be upwards of 80% time savings on processing the permits, both for the public as well as for the staff, because a lot of the workflow and approvals are automated. From a budgeting and planning perspective, we've had agencies save upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 per year in just the budget book creation process. From a ERP and financials perspective, by moving to the cloud, you're going to be able to leverage technology that's going to hopefully speed up the processing time that all of the various departments who will be touching the system will experience. So it's hard to put a specific figure, but every specific module and service that we provide, those are the types of metrics that we would hope to provide to the city of Cheyenne.
Thank you. Other comments from the committee?
Sure.
Mr. Escobar.
Just looking back when we were talking about things in the goal setting sessions, and then when we were rating how we wanted to spend ARPA funds, I put this right at the top of the list. I think moving forward, technology is certainly going to help us, not only with saving money, but saving time. I'm excited for what the future holds and moving forward with this. So, fully supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar. If there are no other comments or questions from the committee, all those in favor of this big consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. That item moves forward. There are no other items on the agenda. This meeting is adjourned.